But the way marketing works, it doesn't work on the debit credits way that you're used to with the accounts. It's more like there's debit, there's a credit, there's a unicorn, there's a triangle, there's sunshine, there's some rain.
You're listening to the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast. Each episode, we have conversations with firm owners and marketing experts about how to attract your ideal clients, foster trust, and build a marketing engine that works for an accounting firm. I'm your host, Matt Banker. I'm the founder of Benchmark Growth Marketing. You can find more episodes and subscribe to our newsletter at marketingforaccountingfirms.com. Now, here's the show. All right, today, this is fun. I have Karen Rayburn on the show, and Karen is she's a direct competitor of mine, possibly, and probably when I think of people in this space who know more about marketing for accounting firms, Karen's probably one of those people. So, Karen, tell us about yourself. And I mean, usually, I was thinking about this. We were talking about it before. Usually I use this as kind of a challenge question of like, well, why should we care what you have to say? But you've literally written the book on marketing for accounting firms. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you know about this space.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me, because I absolutely believe in collaboration over competition. And the accountants that we work with have the same mindset. And one of our newer team members was just asking me recently, like, hey, aren't all these accountants that are in your coaching group, aren't they sort of competitors? And I said, well, in a way, but I sort of forget about that because, as you and I both know, the audience that each company has, whether the accountant or you and I, is different. And the values are different. Yeah. The brand is different. So yeah, I'm excited to dig into this and honored that you would have me in there, because I think it just shows a good attitude, good transparency and openness, which is one of our values as well.
That is so important. You know, as I found myself in different groups of accounting firm owners out there, I think the ones that are really growing the fastest and seeing the best results for them are the ones who are in community with other folks that are doing what they're doing, and they're learning from each other, even folks who are in the same cities or nearby each other.
There's room for us all. This is what I always say, because there's different languages that we all speak. But circling back to your question about, who am I? What am I doing here? The short version is I am a CPA in the States. I got studied accounting at university. I grew up in Arizona, went to university, got the CPA, sort of just did the next thing, became an auditor. I actually moved to Scotland. The intention was just for a couple of years. I was going to do it at that time, and got a job in an accountancy firm because that's what I did. That's what I knew. And then they very quickly moved me into the business development, marketing, consulting side. They're like, do you want to do this? And I'm going, well, it's got to be more interesting than auditing. So sure, let's go. And I studied accountancy because I was challenged by it, but I didn't want to, with no offense whatsoever to the accountants I love, I didn't want to work as an accountant. But I love that I understand that. And that's one of the things that got me to the place of, well, I understand the accounting. I've studied it. I've done it. I've worked as the marketing manager of an accountancy firm and an auditor. But I enjoy knowing that, helping accountants to understand and enjoy marketing so they get to work with clients they love. And that's why I created my agency, because at the time, this was 12 years ago, started in 2012, and I just looked around and saw so many people helping or telling accountants, maybe not even helping, telling accountants what they ought to be doing. And the accountants going, okay, I will. Okay, now I got to get a website designer, I guess. Do I? A website developer? Branding? What do I need? And then they'd have 5 different suppliers, and they'd have to repeat their story to all of them. And it was stressful for the accountant. So that's why I created PF, kind of went, boldly into like, let's help accountants run webinars, and then went, oh, actually, you don't even have a website or an email system, or okay, let's back up. So we kept backing up, and now we have a system and approach. And as you say, the book that I wrote, it's called The Accountant Marketer. I wrote it because I and the team have been working with accountants for all of that time, and there's elements that just keep coming up over and over that if we're going to do anything marketing wise, Well, we've got to think about your audience. Who is this for? Why are you doing it?
Yep.
Why would they care? And I ran a full day workshop. It was actually in association with Zero at a ZeroCon in London. And they did a ton of workshops the day before the ZeroCon. And the one I was doing was on these 12 principles of marketing for accountants. And the most number of people signed up for that one. There was like 50 in my
Mm.
workshop, and there was like 5, 1, 2 in all the other ones. And it just really reflected that accountants were like, teach me, show me, I want to understand
Mm.
this. And the thing that accountants tend to love about the approach that we use is that there are 12 elements and they go in order. It's a structure. Accountants love structure. And
Yeah.
rightly so. When you have a structure and you have an approach, then you can bring your personality, your audience, your brand, your values. So that's the short version of how I and we got
Yeah.
to where we are today. But the book flowed from teaching that, coaching that over and over and over. And I finally decided I would just drop it into a Google Doc. And I had 60,000 words of blog posts and content I'd been writing. And the team were like, Karen, you do realize this is not allowed to be a PDF guide. Like
Right.
you must make it a book. And so that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I've got my copy here as
Twinning.
well. So it's called The Accountant Marketer.
Yep.
You can get it on Amazon, I believe, because I think I
Get
bought
on
mine
all the
on
places.
Amazon,
Yep.
all the places. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about, and you kind of mentioned this. There's so many things people are telling you to do all these things as an accountant,
Yeah.
for your accounting firm. And I think that a lot of folks that I've talked to and I've worked with, they're not sure where to start. They're not sure how to figure out what is the right balance of
Yes.
these different things. And so I think we were going to talk a little bit today about how do you balance between quick wins so that your marketing is doing stuff right now or directly, going out and getting
Yeah.
work for you, getting new clients, but behind balancing that with the long-term investment, because marketing, it's not just like a light switch that you can turn on when you need leads and then you turn it off when you don't. There's a lot of this foundational stuff that has to happen. So maybe unpack that. How do you think about that balance between quick wins and the long-term investment?
Absolutely. That difference is something we've been really aware of, especially in the last year or two, because when we started PF, we were focusing on that long-term game. And for the record, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still a fan of the long-term game. I believe that it delivers the best quality results organically
Mm-hmm.
over that long period of time. So if you're going to do marketing and do it well, which the accountants we work with, that's what they want. They want good quality marketing that brings them clients they love. Maybe not even more clients. We presume that with marketing, but you might not actually need more clients. You might need less. You might need better clients. You might need to price them better and show your value better. So whatever it is that your goal is, it's about understanding, who are you and who are they, and getting all, as you say, those foundational aspects of marketing. I liken
Mm-hmm.
marketing to a steam engine because it's got to build up steam before it can go chugging
Mm-hmm.
along. And if you don't put the coal in and you're not building up that steam, you are not going to go from 0 to 100. And I looked
Mm-hmm.
this up. I think it was 130 roughly miles per hour. That's the fastest that a steam engine can go. You are not going to go 0 to 130 in a few seconds. And this is what a lot of
Yeah.
people, not just accountants, business owners, are going, okay, fine. I will spend some monies. I will put 10 grand into my marketing, and I would like 10 grand in, 2 to 3 months. And you're going, how much have you put
Yeah.
into the train? Like, do you
Yep.
have the train? Do you have, it's not just, we're not even to the coal yet. Like, have
Right.
you got a train? Have you got a track? Do you know if you're going
Yeah.
up or down? And they're like, listen, I was just, all these other people have trains, and somebody offered to sell me a train for a couple thousand. I figured that was good. And you're like, okay, have you checked it out? Do you know if
Yeah.
it works? Have you put coal in it? And so
Mm-hmm.
there's this foundational element, regardless of whether you're doing stuff for the long term or looking at quick wins. There's a foundational level of marketing that you must
Mm-hmm.
invest in. And you're either, as
Yeah.
you and I both know, you're either going to invest your time, or you're going to invest your money, or it's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
combo. And
Yep.
usually it's a lot of your time and a little money. And then over time, it's little less of your time and more of your money. And that's where the
Yep.
balance is tough for accountants because, going back to that long game, you could get a client today from something you did 3 years ago. They
Right.
listen. I mean, you do a podcast, that's a perfect example. People could listen to a podcast for months, years, and then one day,
Mm-hmm.
the right thing happens at the right time, and they're ready, and off they go. My book is a good
Yeah.
example of that. People read it and go, "I've been following you in PF for 5 years, and now I'm ready. I've read it, I'm
Right.
ready, I'm educated, let's go. I've got the budget, I've got the time, I understand why it's so important."
This week's episode is sponsored by Benchmark Growth Marketing, helping your accounting firm expand your niche with branding, positioning, websites, SEO, and marketing strategy. If you're an accounting firm looking to fix your marketing, Benchmark is your go-to solution. Learn more at marketingforaccountingfirms.com. Now back to the program.
Well, but one of the frustrating things I think for not just accounting firms, but for any business owner is this foundational stuff. It's hard to tie it
Yes,
directly to
that's the
revenue
kicker.
and attribution.
Yes.
So even if the reason they came to you was because they've been listening to your podcast, you may not know what it was 3 years ago that you did that got them started
sure.
on that path
They
that
don't
eventually
even know.
landed here.
They don't even know.
Right.
When you like one of the I don't think it matters massively if, say, you come to me and you're like, "Hey, Karen, I was thinking of working with PF," and we say, "How did you hear of us originally?" You may go, "Well, I don't know. You just seem to be everywhere. And then I bought your book."
You're around.
Yeah.
And
I can say, "All right, I'm gonna give 3 points to my book for bringing this person in, but I've got to give a point to the PF brand and the website and the socials and all of my LinkedIn posts, which I've been working on posting almost daily since the start of the year, made a big impact. Little things that we do." And again, that's a perfect example with LinkedIn. We get accountants saying, "Well, I tried LinkedIn and it didn't work," or whatever thing that you're saying didn't work. But the way marketing works, it doesn't work on the debit credits way that you're used to with the accounts. It's more like there's debit, there's a credit, there's a unicorn, there's a triangle, there's sunshine, there's some rain, and it might rain at the wrong time or it might suddenly thunder. You don't know, and you get to play, and that's part of the fun, but that's part of the challenge. So circling back to the foundational elements, that is why they're so important to invest in, but you still need to decide when is the right time. How well do you know your own firm, your values, your audience, so that it's worth investing that significant amount in the foundational areas?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe we have a similar thought on this. When I think of those foundational elements, there's sort of I think of them as in 3 major categories. You've got positioning, which is kind of internally focused. We need to know who we are, who our clients are, like our service offering, all of that stuff. Then there's messaging. I'm a story brand guide, so we have this story brand approach, which is then how do you take your positioning and communicate it to your audience. And then the third one is really tangible. It usually centers around your website, like your home base. And if you get those 3 things set as sort of your foundation, that's a good start. But none of that is easily attributed directly to revenue. The website starts to get there, you're getting better conversions maybe, but you're still not getting new leads, right? And so when I talk to a lot of accounting firm owners, that they come to me and they say, "Well, I just need more leads. If I had more leads, I'd be able to grow my business." And the hard truth is that what you need often is to focus on some of this foundational stuff, because you don't want to spend good money sending good leads to a bad website with bad messaging and you don't understand your positioning, right? I hear all the time from accounting firm owners, though, feels like marketing is like throwing money into a black hole. And so I'm going to use this as a way to kind of segue into the next part, which is if all you do is kind of that foundational stuff, marketing can be quite frustrating because you're not seeing any progress.
You're not using your foundation. It's like building a house.
Right.
Like I've got an accountant I'm doing some coaching with who works with custom home builders, and he's building a home himself. If all you do is build the foundation and let it sit there, you don't have a house. You don't have walls. You don't have windows. Nobody can come over. You can't have wine and pasta, which we all know we want to have in the house, the candles or whatever it be. but you've got to do the foundations, but you've also got to add to them. And I hear you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we get the same thing. Like it does feel frustrating because this is back to marketing doesn't work the way the accounts numbers do, where I put in
Mm-hmm.
this and I get this, and if I don't get this, it's a fail. Instead, it's I put in this here, 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 there, and I have no idea where this came from. And in a sense, it's okay. And I don't want to minimize the importance of tracking and checking your ROI
Mm-hmm.
and looking at your numbers, but you do have to focus on the foundational things as a starter for the other things that you're going to do with it. So I encourage
Mm-hmm.
accountants to look at what's your minimum viable foundation. So your minimum
Mm-hmm.
viable foundation for a firm that has 2 or 3 partners, 50 to 100 team members, you've been around for a while, you've got a name, you're not sure if it's the right name, it's kind of standard typical. You've got the classic blue and gray colors, your accounting firm name sounds like an accounting firm name, and you've got a WordPress template that looks like everybody else's, and you're awesome and amazing in a particular way. And when
Mm-hmm.
you get the prospect in, you can convert them, but you're not getting them in because when they look at your website or whatever materials and they look at 7 other accountants, you all look the same. So what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing with the foundational work is saying, well, what's my minimum viable? And for some firms, like that example one I gave, they're probably going to need to say, okay, we've been in business long enough. We need to stop here and do brand strategy. And we need to understand who we are, what are our values, what's the kind of clients we like to work with, maybe industry, maybe not, type of person, whatever. Who's our audience? What do they care about? What matters to them? What are the messages we want to get across? And once we've got all that,
Mm-hmm.
then we sort of have set aside your name and logo and brand and colors and website. Then we have that whole conversation, and then we look at it and say, given that, how do you think your current name, brand, logo, website, etc., is reaching those people? And they're going,
Mm-hmm.
I've just told you that we work with fast moving tech businesses and our name is ABC Accountants and Co. And we look like
Mm-hmm.
every other. Clearly, that's not matching. We probably need a new name. We need to rebrand. And then they start going, oh my gosh, but
Mm-hmm.
we just had the signs done last year and, all of these things. But the question is not how
Yes.
much did you spend in the past? We're all familiar with the sunk cost. It's not even
Mm-hmm.
did you work with an agency and you didn't get what you want? That happens all the time. I'm sure it does with people you work with. And that's justifiable fear
Mm-hmm.
that you would have. The question is, does your branding and marketing appeal to the kind of client you want? And if it does not, you are actively sending them away. Everything in your
Yeah.
marketing right now is making it harder for you. Marketing's supposed to relieve your burdens. That's its job.
Mm-hmm.
So if marketing is giving you burdens, then maybe you haven't invested enough. Maybe you haven't been specific enough. Maybe you don't know yourself well enough yet. And that's okay. That's what
Yeah.
marketing is supposed to help you with. Like our clients refer to our foundational sessions as marketing therapy. They're like, man, that is tough.
Mm-hmm.
That is deep. That is intense. But oh, it's so good. And we're just downloading from your brain everything that you tell accountants,
Mm-hmm.
everything that you as the accountant tell your clients or potential clients, and then we put that into a brand, a website, or whatever, so that your marketing can do the work for you. So once, and I
Yeah.
know we're talking about moving from the foundation to the other bit, once you have that, then it's a question, well, what marketing campaigns will we run with our great foundation? And if your minimum
Yeah.
viable foundation is a full rebrand with a new name and logo and a website, you're going to be spending a big chunk of money on that, and you're going to accept that and plan for it, and it's a true investment. There are other
Mm-hmm.
people who just need to use what they've got, update their website a little bit, create a more specific page with some better messaging, and get on social media. That's all they need to do for a while. So
Yep.
I just want to reassure anyone who's going, okay, you're saying I have to spend 50 grand. I've spent 100 grand. Maybe, but maybe you
Yeah.
only need to spend 3 grand and do a bunch of work yourself.
Well, and I think, you and I, we're a couple of marketers. We sell marketing to accounting firms. It'd be easy for us to sit here and be like, and I know this is a frustration of, I think almost every accounting firm that I talk to.
Mm.
Uh, we want to be a guide, a trusted source. Like my goal, and I think this, you share this attitude. We're not just trying to sell you services. We're trying to help figure out what is going to actually move the needle.
Yeah.
I dread those conversations when an accounting firm comes in and says, "Oh, we just did a website redesign last year," and I look at what they've done, and I feel terrible. But my answer might be, this isn't going to get you where you want to go. I'm so sorry that
Yeah.
you spent a bunch of money on this last
Yeah.
year, but you go through some of this stuff. So that is an unfortunate situation that happens. Now, sometimes, like you said, we talk with someone who has a great brand. They have a lot of clarity around this. They've done the work to get themselves to a point, and now they really are ready to
Yes.
like get some leads in the
Yes.
door. And there is this balance, right, between this I think you break it down into 3 categories. Can you talk us
We do,
through
yes. There's a
these
little
3 kind of
triangle. I
categories?
draw a little
Yeah.
little triangle at the bottom foundational level is the foundations. That is, you had the 3, but ours are 4. We do goals, brand, website, plan, in that order. So if you don't know what your goals are, you're not going to be able to understand what marketing you need. Brand is your audience and values and messaging. Website is your client journey, the journey you want them to follow and how that's reflected. And then the marketing plan is, okay, now what stuff are we going to do? Usually marketing campaigns that you do in order to deliver on those goals. So we circle back. So that's the foundational stuff. And if all you need to do for a year is go through the strategy, go through those things, build your marketing plan, start doing some stuff, maybe do a few small things, there's no problem. That might be your foundations. Somebody else's foundations might be those sessions plus a full rebrand plus a new website, and then they're in a place to do that. So you've got your foundational content. The middle level of the triangle is what I call your consistent content, your blog posts, your social media, your awareness. You're just present. You're just ticking things away. And the top one, which is everybody's favorite, is the marketing campaign. And that's the one that says, we spend this, we expect to get this, and at the end of it, we will tot up how much we spent and how much we got, and we will check. Now, the difference is, if you add it all up and say, we spent 10 grand on this campaign, and we did not get any client signing up for this service or any leads yet after 6 weeks, we don't consider that a fail. That's the big kicker. Because you're tempted to. You're tempted to say, well, that was the stupidest campaign ever. This sucks. Why am I even doing this? And we're saying, first, marketing and creativity are all about the fails. We don't love fails, but you got to have them to learn. So we say, all right, there's something that didn't resonate here, didn't land. Did we not have the right message? Did we go at the wrong time? Did we try and put everything out over Easter when everybody's off? Did we talk about our service more than we talked about the issues that the person faces? What did we miss here? And then we use that to learn and to either adjust the campaign or do a different campaign. So if you're hoping to have 10 new clients and you only got 1, the first thing is say, well, if your campaign was 6 weeks long and you got 1, you can keep running the things that you built for the campaign. You can keep sharing your PDF guide or your website or your video or your social posts. So it is possible that campaign, even though you ran it for 6 weeks, has given you content that will deliver another one and another one over 12 months. Or like we said, 3 years later, somebody might go, do you know what? We had that call with you. We decided not to go ahead. We went with another accountant that was cheaper. We've learned this the hard way, that was a very bad decision. And now we're in a worse place. And now we're ready to go. Let's spend the money. Let's invest the money. Let's learn and do this properly. So your campaign may have not been a fail because the impact takes longer to see. It may have been a fail, but a learning, and you adjust your campaign and do it again. And then the second round of the campaign, you have twice as many. Well, if you had 0, twice as many, still 0. So you go from 0 to 2 or to 5 or to 10. And then you just keep adjusting it so that you can learn from that. And that's what we find is the biggest kicker with what we call short-term campaigns. But the short-term campaign is built on a long-term base, and that is how it has the impact. So that triangle I mentioned, if you have not invested at the foundational level, if you have not invested at the consistent content level, your campaign will be harder, take longer, cost you more, and deliver you less. So if you are
Yeah.
frustrated with the lack of success in a marketing campaign where you found an agency that said, let's get you on social media ads, and you don't have a solid
Hmm.
brand and your website pages are not clear and you haven't been publishing
Yeah.
blog posts and social, it is no shocker to anyone, or it ought not to be a shocker, that your campaign failed, but it feels like a shock to you. And that I understand that. You know, you're sitting there as the accountant going, well, that marketing agency is rubbish. And I don't ever want to speak against another agency because I don't know them and it's not fair. But it is your
Yeah.
job as the accountant. You're the responsible for your own firm's marketing. So it is your job to say, how do I make sure that I'm investing at the foundational level, the consistent level, and the campaigns level in a way that fits with my firm? And if you need to
Yeah.
invest in all three and that whole triangle looks like a ton of money in year one, then that's what you do. And if you're not ready to do
Yeah.
that, you do a little bit on the foundations and then year two, you do that. But what a lot
Yeah.
of our clients do is they invest at the foundational level and then they take what they were putting there and put it into campaigns because they've already done that. And then their campaigns succeed and they're like, hey, look at this. Marketing's working. So it
Yeah.
is a balance. And I understand that principle of wanting to get quick wins, and all that being said, there are very tiny things that you can try. I'm not going to make guarantees because every firm is different, but it might be that if all your clients are on Instagram, it doesn't matter you don't like Instagram. That's where they are. Maybe you just need to hang out there,
Yeah.
or LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever it be. Like, it's all about the audience.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say too, though, there with marketing, there is a lot of trial and failure, but I think that there is also an advantage to working with a firm that understands your business and your industry. I know because we work with a lot of accounting
100.
firms, we have more insight into what types of campaigns and what types of tactics work. And what I've seen, one of the big mistakes is for marketing firms that are more generalist in their approach, they assume that what works for a brick and mortar
Yes.
retail shop is going to work for an accounting firm, and a lot of times the relationship is different, and the types of campaigns that tend to work really well in one space don't translate to another one. And so when you're thinking about what kind of tests are we running, you want to be running the campaigns that have a
Yep.
higher chance of success. And
Yep.
I do think that there's
Yeah.
there's really a lot of insights. Now, this as an accountant too. If you have a niche, or you have types of clients that you work with a lot over time, you get insights into their business. You're able to offer better advice because you've seen it before, or you have similar clients, and you can do that. The same thing happens in this marketing space. There's so many things you could
Yep.
do in marketing that you want to be as best you can, choosing wisely. But even
Yeah.
you and I, who have worked with a ton of accounting firms, see campaigns fail occasionally and see
Yes,
things
absolutely.
have to be adjusted
And
and reworked, right?
that's it, and I think just accepting it. So I'm working on my second book, which is about the mindset of creativity and that
Mm.
accountants being humans. So unless you are listening and you're an AI bot accountant, for everybody else, all the accountant humans, because you're a human, you are creative. And it is
Mm.
tempting to think, well, I'm not a creative person. I'm not an artist. I'm not a photographer. I'm not a writer. But
Mm.
instead of putting it up in this like, oh, this unachievable place, creativity comes down to problem solving and curiosity and
Mhm.
taking. I stole that from Inc., the book
Mm.
from the Pixar owner. And but those two things, I see that in accountants all the time. And that's what you do with your clients. You problem solve and then you're curious
Yeah.
about it. So a big part of creativity is curiosity, and a big part of creativity is fails. So if you accept that going in, we don't accept that we like fails. We don't want the campaign
Mhm.
to result in apparently nothing. But what we do is we look beyond and say, was it nothing though, actually? Because
Mhm.
it seems like it was, but we learned a lot. We've got a couple inquiries, and we don't know what's going to happen in 3 months or 6 months' time. So opening your mindset to, let's try something. There's a play element to marketing that I know can be hard
Yeah.
as an accountant. You're like, I don't want to play. I want you to tell me how to do it, what to do it, step 1 through 5, and I want to guarantee a result. what's encouraging me
Mm-hmm.
is most of the accountants that we work with anyway are the ones who are like, you know what? Yeah, let's try it. Like I'm doing a 100-day video challenge right now, just personally for myself, but I've got a bunch of accountants who decide to start doing it with me. And if you're listening to this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, you want to do it, you can do it yourself. You just pick today as your day one. And for 100 days, you record a video every single day so that you can get better and more natural, more comfortable at video. And I picked this
Yeah.
because video is I avoid it. I want to get
Mm.
it perfect. I want to plan it, script it. So I do a 90-second
Mm-hmm.
video on Instagram every day for 100 days. And that the point is not to be like, oh, I got X number of clients. It's to say, I'm going to see what happens. Austin Kleon, one of my
Yeah.
favorite authors, talks about showing your work and keeping going. And he says, just show up every day for 100 days and see what happens. And that's what
Yeah.
creativity is about. Now, the marketing campaigns that we run with you, we'll run the numbers, we'll plan it out, we'll budget it, we'll look for ROI and numbers. But there is still an element of just seeing what happens. And there's a firm owner who decided to join me for the 100-day challenge, and she is already going, you know what? I'm 5 days in. I'm going to try TikTok as well, just because to
Hmm.
see. And I thought, what
Yeah.
a lovely approach. She's not going, well, I've been doing it for 5 days and I haven't got a new lead. This is a rubbish challenge. She's leaning into, I just want to see what I can
Yeah.
learn and what I can grasp.
Well, and just zooming out a little bit from that, I think one of the things that's really it's going to really benefit an accounting firm is if you start thinking about marketing not just in that project mindset. Like we're going to do some marketing every once in a while. There's two things
Yes.
about marketing. It feels expensive, right? And it is expensive. And when we say
Sometimes it is.
expensive,
I was just
you
gonna
mentioned it
say,
already.
sometimes it absolutely
There's
is. Yeah.
it's expensive either in time or money or both. But the reason it
Yep.
feels expensive, I think, is that firms haven't really built it into their business model as an
Yes.
ongoing budgeted thing that they're
Yes.
consistently investing in. And how you invest those dollars and that time is going to change as you build a better foundation, as you find campaigns that work, as you decide what kind of consistent stuff needs to happen every week or month,
Yes.
and then what kind of campaigns do you want to run. But if you don't have a plan and a budget and,
Yep.
and an ability to do this over time, it's always going to feel expensive because you're going to go and say, one day you're going to wake up and
Yes.
realize, your website looks terrible on mobile and you need to do a redesign, and you're going to go and find out how much it's
Yeah.
going to cost. And that's going to be, a stake in the heart. It's
Yeah.
going to feel bad. But if you're
Yeah.
budgeting, if you're setting
Yeah.
aside money on a consistent basis, it doesn't feel so bad. And it really should be a part of your business in general, unless the only way you want to grow
Yeah,
your firm is by
absolutely.
buying other firms.
Yeah.
You're going to need to do some
Even then,
marketing.
though, like I always say, even if you don't want to get more leads, you just want to have better clients that your team enjoy working with and you enjoy working with and that
Yeah.
are profitable for you, you need marketing for that too. Because if you, if you're just standing still while everybody is moving forward, you're not going to get what you've
Hmm.
always gotten. You're going to get less because you're going to start sliding backwards.
Yep.
So, and I do understand, as you said, that if you're looking at it merely as I spend this dollars, did I get this dollars, that there is a little turn to the approach that you need to take. And again, with the minimum viable, whatever that is, start small, start
Hmm.
safe is one of the things I encourage you to. Doesn't mean
Yep.
you have to stay small and safe, but it means that you start
Hmm.
somewhere and you try something and you see if it works. And then if it does, you do more. And then
Hmm.
recognizing, so circling back to you as the owner of the firm, that marketing is your responsibility. It is not something you abdicate. It is not something you hand off to someone else. We work collaboratively with our accountants, and we meet with them every month, or sometimes 4
Hmm.
times a month, or as often as we need to. We're talking, we're sharing. They're sending us a message in Slack going, I had a great idea today. I thought about this, or is this a great idea? Maybe this is stupid, but they've got that balance of saying, what are we going to do with this? But they recognize it comes from your conversations with clients, your conversations with prospects, the questions they are asking, And then we just help you turn that into a format and a tangible and intangible that appeals to people. So when you recognize that marketing is your job as the owner, like you are the, buck stops with you, it isn't that you
Mm-hmm.
don't get help. Of course you do. That's why, people like us exist. But
Yeah.
what you're doing is saying, I'm not going to just tack on a little marketing to see if it works. I'm going to consider that a base level of expense that I have to put into my firm for what it will deliver. And we recommend 3 to 10% of your revenue. And that percent per year, that percent will change. If you need to do more foundational stuff, you might be at the 10%. We've had firms who have invested 20 or 30% in 1 year.
Yeah.
And then in the next year, they're like, right, okay, now we're at 5. And actually, we're going to
Yeah.
go down to 1% for a few months. And then we're going to go up to 3. That's fine. But if you're
Yeah.
spending 0%, that's just, that's not, at
Right.
some point, it's going to bite you.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with how aggressive you want to be, or how quickly you want to move, because a lot of this
How
foundational
fast do you want to move?
stuff, you could spread it out over time and that would be fine, but
Sure.
you're probably going to spend the same amount. So if you got the money, maybe it makes sense to
Yes.
take a leap and do it all at once, rather than wait for 3 years to get it done, at which point that's when you start really getting the benefits from it. Well, this is a good place, I think.
Firm
Oh, go
has
ahead.
already changed. No, I was
Yeah.
just gonna
Well,
say, like,
I
if
think
you
that's
take
a
that
huge
long to
deal.
do you have a new firm, you have different people, you have different clients, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to recap. So we were talking about there's really three. There's your triangle. There's these 3 levels, right? You've got your foundation that you need to get set. Then you need to have consistency in it might be email marketing and social media, this blog post, this stuff that you're producing on a consistent basis. And then finally, you've got these campaigns where it's kind of a targeted, we want to go out and make an impact. And those are the ones where you're probably most closely judging like attribution and ROI. And as you're talking about it, you've got your train metaphor. The metaphor that came into mind is like, you got to eat. And we're going to do 3 things. You're going to trap food, you're going to farm food, and you're going to hunt food. And so like the foundation is like, we're setting the trap so that as people come in, they land on our website, they understand who we are, and they'd say, yeah, I want to work with you. Then you farm, you're working with your network, you're putting out consistent content. And then in some cases, you're going to go out and you're going to hunt the buffalo, and you're going to bring back, a big prize at the end of the day. Those are your campaigns. Well,
I
Karen,
suddenly
tell
now
us
have thoughts about hunter-gatherer marketing.
right. Well, Karen, tell our listeners where can they find you? What would it look like to get started working with you? What would you want them if they're interested in seeing what you have to offer? How would they do that?
Yeah, thanks. So the very first place I would recommend is just get a copy of my book if you haven't already. Yep, thank you. So you go to KarenLRayburn.com. And that has all the links. It's on audio. I've narrated it. It's on ebook. It's on print. And you can get it from wherever you need. So that's the place to go for the book. Or you can just Google accountant marketer book. And then if you're considering looking at working with PF, or you just want some free resources, we're big on giving resources and templates and checklists and stuff that can help you. That is wearepf.com. That's my agency. We have about 20 creatives working all over the world with accountants all over the world. So it doesn't matter where in the world you're working. We work with US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, UK, anywhere. And, everything that we do is custom fully to who you are as a firm, because that's what the best marketing is.
Yeah. Well, I agree. We're also a custom shop. I know there's a lot of templated things that a lot of folks get started with, but I think that when you're ready to jump into that next level of your marketing, one of the things I love that you say is, the owner, you have to take ownership of it. You can't outsource this completely to a marketing agency and expect good results. I know as we've developed over time, we've realized it doesn't make sense for us to write on behalf of firms. We have to collaborate with them, because the real insight, the value of that content so often has to be situated really with the person who knows what they're talking about, which is you as a firm owner. And so you need to also be involved in the marketing strategy and developing your firm. It's not something that you can't 100% just throw money at it and hope that it's going to grow. I think
Yep,
that may be, in
that
terms
is
of a piece of advice, that's the best way to waste money, is
yeah,
just to throw money
yeah.
and say it's somebody else's
Yeah,
problem.
if anyone is listening and wants to flush their money down the toilet, the best way to do is just throw it at somebody, have no involvement, no conversations, and expect to get a return. And that is exactly it. Is when you understand it's your job, and when you understand that marketing's job is to represent you, don't you want it to represent you
Mhm.
well and honestly? Of course you do. I hope you do.
Yeah.
So in order to
Yes.
do that, you get to put it in. And if one of your fears is, oh, it's going to take so much time, think about how much time it takes to try to figure it all out yourself and get frustrated and say that was a waste of money. And also,
Yeah.
it can actually be really fun. Like a lot of our accountants we work with, after some time, some people it's a few months, some people it's a few years, they're like, do you know what? I actually really love blog writing or videos or whatever thing. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
And they find they love it because they made that connection. I am getting to share with people who I and we as a firm truly are. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about this all day, but there's probably a
Clearly.
hard limit at which point people are going to stop listening. So I think we'll wrap it up there. But Karen, we'll have you come back again, and you know,
Thank
whatever
you.
that next kind of big topic of marketing that's on your mind, we'll set
Yeah.
up another conversation sometime in a couple months. So thanks, Karen, for being on the show. And again, you can get the book in all the places, but KarenLRayburn.com is where you'll find all those links, and wearepf.com for the agency. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast. If you liked this conversation and found it valuable, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's really good for the algorithm, and it helps other firm owners find this show. You can subscribe to our weekly Marketing for Accounting Firms newsletter at marketingforaccountingfirms.com. And you can connect with me, Matt Banker, on LinkedIn or Twitter. We hope you tune in next time for another episode of Marketing for Accounting Firms.